Welcome to GFBM Podcast. I'm Mal, the girlfriend, and welcome to my first solo segment. I'm a little nervous. I'm in my room. I figure this is the place that I kind of love the most. It's my little sanctuary, so figured I would do the episode here. I asked a couple questions on Instagram, so I'm gonna dive into some of those, and we'll see where the conversation takes us. I thought the first question that I needed to start with was kind of perfect. Someone asked, do you think your new back problems are a result of your recent boob job? Which is such a good question, and I really hope not, because I love my girls. I don't think so, truly. What happened was a few weeks ago, almost maybe even a month ago, I tweaked my back cleaning out my closet, just going through clothes and getting rid of stuff, which I just feel like that's what happens when you get old, I guess. I heard it, and then I kind of just kept going on with normal life. Went to my doctor, PRTI, it's physical therapy that I normally go to for my migraines. Put my pelvis back in place, kind of thought that was the end of it. It wasn't, it's gotten worse, and actually I was probably not smart in resting at all. I ended up trying to get some help. I had a cruise with Madden and Oakley that I did for spring break, and so we went on the cruise, and obviously you're kind of go doing that, and I was in pain, but just trying to get through it. And then when we got back, this was probably the worst decision I could have done, but ski season was almost over, and my husband Darren was like, let's go, let's just go have fun. And so I was like, okay, if I'm in the skiing position, my back doesn't hurt that bad, I can go try. And we only did 2 runs, but honestly, it was pretty terrible. And I was being so cautious, and maybe I'll post the video on the Instagram, but there was one point where we went down a run that I'm not super familiar with, and I get lost from Darren. I can't find him. I'm on my skis, hiking up this way that I shouldn't have gone. And then I get to this point where it's kind of a drop off, and because I'm being so cautious with my back, I'm freaking out a little bit. So I call Darren, I'm yelling at him. I'm like, why do you always take me down the worst hills? Just losing it. And he was like, you've got to be kind of close to me. We didn't go that far. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm close to you. He comes a little bit further down, and here I am on this, what I thought was a mountain. I'm freaking out, feeling like I can't get down. I'm crying. He comes and sees me, and he just starts laughing, gets his phone out, starts recording me. I slowly make my way down, and he was like, babe, that was a hill. That wasn't even anything. But I think I was in the place where I was just so nervous about my back that I was being extra cautious and emotional. And even Shelby, she was like, don't go skiing. What are you doing? You've been in pain for 3 weeks. Don't go. And I was like, no, it's fine. And then the next day is when it got really bad, and I couldn't really sit or walk and was kind of bedridden. I ended up getting a CT on my back, and they didn't find anything. It's just been a nightmare. It still is a little rough. But the reason I don't think it's because of my boob job is it's just kind of this sharp pain that will shoot down, and it just barely came on. If it came on right after I got my boobs, or a couple months, but I got my boob job in August. So it's been a while. And actually, as much as I love them, my right implant hasn't dropped. And so I may have to get surgery to get it to drop. I don't know. I'm really hoping that it will just kind of drop on its own, because this is terrible. I'm so sad about it. But hopefully we'll get through it. It hasn't even been a year yet. I think we'll get to the year mark and then kind of discuss if he has to do surgery again or not. So if anyone has had that happen before, please let me know, because it is very interesting. I didn't even think it could happen. I'm like, why didn't both not drop? I'd be fine with that, but whatever. Next question I got, I loved, and it's gonna have me dive into a lot. It was from my sweet friend Perry that I grew up with. And she said, what would you go back and tell cute, newly pregnant 18-year-old Mal? And that was kind of a hard question for me because I have a hard time going back and remembering that time of my life. Teenage to early 20s, even mid 20s, I disassociated a lot. So it's very hard to put myself back in that spot, but it was a good little challenge for me too. And you know, what I would tell that Mal is that you're not a disappointment, and it's okay that you're pregnant and things are going to be okay. I think a little backstory on getting pregnant and how all that happened. So Drew and I, my kid's father, we dated on and off throughout high school. I think we met our junior year. Honestly, it's all kind of a blur, so if my timeline is wrong, that is why. And you know, we were obsessed with each other, but we were also obsessed with everyone else too. You know, we were high school. We loved attention. We loved flings. Like, we were absolutely obsessed with each other, but still, I don't think we wanted to really settle down. And so we were on and off throughout high school. I had other boyfriends. He dated other people, but we always kept coming back to each other. And I think a big part of why I kept coming back to him too was because of his family. I loved his family so much. I obviously felt like I was struggling in my family. I've always kind of felt like the black sheep of my family. It was only me and my little sister at home. And then with my mom being sick and my dad being a bishop and his weird work schedule, home never felt like home to me. And so his family was very welcoming, and I loved all his siblings, and it just felt good to be around them. And so I think that was a huge, force of why I kept gravitating towards him, even though it was a toxic relationship and we hurt each other, and there was a lot to it, but it all worked out for a reason. I think there was a reason why we needed to get our kids here. I don't ever think Drew and I were meant to be together at all. I think we were meant to have Madden and Oakley. But I graduated high school in June, and I moved out like 2 days later with a couple girlfriends in Sugar House. And once I moved out, it was like, I'm free. I grew up in a very strict household, very religious household. So like, there were no TV on Sundays. We couldn't go to the store on Sundays. I could go out one night a weekend. I was have to be home by 10. It was just very strict. I hated rules. I hated being at home. And so it was just this newfound freedom of like, I get to go do whatever I want. I started drinking with my friends. It was fun. Like, I had a blast, but obviously with drinking can come, some poor decisions. And during this time, Drew was playing rugby up at the U. He went into college. I didn't. I was just working a job and drinking and hanging out with friends. And so we were seeing other people, but again, we'd keep going back to each other. And so the cycle continued. And our fights would get really bad. There was a lot of jealousy, a lot of insecurity. And there was one point where I was like, you know what? I need to get away from him. We need to be separated so I can move on. And I had this weird feeling of, you need to go get a pregnancy test. And I don't think I'd ever taken a pregnancy test before. I didn't even know when you could get pregnant. Like, any of that, I was never taught. No one ever told me. I didn't know about ovulating. I knew nothing. And actually, looking back now, I'm like, that was really dumb of you. But I remember my parents were worried about my weight. And because of that, they took me to my just regular doctor. And I remember him saying to me, and I think looking back now, it was a scare tactic to try to get me to put, my nutrition, just care more about my nutrition. But he said to me, you wouldn't be able to have a baby. And I think what he was meaning is the way that I was eating and what I was doing. I was really, really skinny. I think what he was meaning to say is my body wouldn't be able to support a baby. And again, this wasn't saying that me having a baby, he was saying in the future. But in my mind, I go, okay, well, I can't have kids, like whatever. And so we weren't smart, we didn't use condoms. It just, we were very dumb, and I didn't really know, but I have this weird okay, I should probably go get a pregnancy test. So I go to the Dollar Tree and I get a pregnancy test, and I go home and I take it and it's positive. And when I called Drew, he doesn't believe me. He was like, you're just doing this to try to get back with me. And so that's how everything started, which, you know, we worked through and got past. But it started at a very scary and rocky time, and then I moved back in with my parents, and I'm not really sure why. I just kind of was like, okay, well, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna move back home if I'm gonna have a kid. And because of the way that I was brought up, I wouldn't say forced, I wasn't forced to get married, but it was definitely known that if I do have the baby and if I'm living at home, Drew will not be allowed to come over and sleep over. You know, he can come see the baby. My parents wouldn't even let us be in my bedroom together, even though I was already pregnant. So it was just kind of like, okay, well, I guess we're getting married. Which now looking back, I'm like, why don't we just move out together? Like, I didn't have to get married, but it wasn't even an option at this point. I think I was so disappointed in myself because everyone else was disappointed in me that it was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna do what everyone says. And I was kind of like a robot. It was like, okay, move back home. Okay, get married. And then it was very weird because we were partying. I was never really invested in the Mormon church. I never really believed in it. But all of a sudden I got pregnant, and I was like, well, okay, we need to go back to church. We need to get sealed in the temple. We need to do everything right. And I think it was because of a lot of pressure that I felt from my family and being sad that I disappointed them, especially being the black sheep of the family. It was just like, oh, of course Mallory got pregnant. Like, I had siblings that called me a slut. Like, it just, you know, I felt like all of a sudden, okay, let's prove everyone wrong, and I can do it the right way. And that was very unfair to Drew as well, of holding him to these expectations of we're young 18-year-olds partying and having fun, to all of a sudden, okay, well, now I'm pregnant, so you have to change who you are and get to these expectations that I have of you and that I have of myself all of a sudden. So that was just not a great way to come into the marriage. And I've talked to him about that and realized the part that I played in that. And I do feel really bad about that because I never truly wanted that. I felt like that's what I needed to do to feel better about the situation and to feel like I wasn't bad. Which is just, it's really sad, and I just want to go give that 18-year-old Mal a hug and just say, just be who you are. It doesn't matter. Like, you're gonna be okay, and it's gonna be okay. But I had to go through that. There was a time where my kids were little that I was trying to go to church with them and do all these things. And I never felt like that was a path that I was supposed to be on or to do. So I'm glad I finally started listening to myself again and who I was and what I wanted. When I was living with my parents, they even had kind of like ambushed me a little bit. Had my cousin come over who had worked with people with adoption and tried to kind of talk me into looking into adoption. I just felt very alone at that time, and that no one really supported me. Looking back now, I do realize what my parents were doing. I was sick very often when I was a teen. I had migraines a lot, and I still do get migraines. I do not get them as much as I did when I was that age, and I think a lot of that was because I was trying to escape. So migraines were a manifestation of me hating my life and hating, you know, being behind in school, of not feeling you know, like I was being true to myself, but not knowing what to do living in this strict household. So I do understand that they're sitting and thinking, well, you couldn't even get up for school all the time. How are you going to get up and raise and support a baby? But it did feel, I felt very isolated. A lot of my friends were, you know, they were going to college. They were having all these experiences that I was not ever going to get. I was getting ready to be married. It was just a very interesting time of my life. My wedding, I hated my dress. I hated pretty much everything about it, but I didn't play a part of it because I was just in auto drive. Like, I had my sister-in-laws that helped so much, my mother-in-law, I had so much help, and I appreciate all of them for doing that. I was like a zombie. I was just in autopilot, just going through the motions, and then being in such a toxic relationship, which it was, you don't really remember much either. It was, we'd get in these crazy fights. There were, you know, arrests that happened. It was just the craziest thing. And then it's like the next day the slate is wiped clean and I don't even remember what happened or why did he go to jail? I don't remember. It's gone, moved on until the next fight 3 days later. It was just this vicious cycle of when two people aren't supposed to be together, you know that you're not supposed to be together. But when there are kids involved and when you do want it to work and when there's love there, it was very hard to accept that and to realize that and to move on. And so I was moving in and out of my parents' house. And then when I got pregnant with Oakley, you know, the first time after the 6 weeks that we had sex, I got pregnant. And when I found out, I was devastated. I was bawling. I went to work that morning. I was bawling. And I remember Drew being like, hey, it's okay. Like, we're going to be fine. And I remember looking at him and being like, what do you mean? Like, we have a brand new baby and our relationship is a disaster and I'm pregnant again. It was a crazy time in my life, but I'm so grateful to that Mal for getting through it so that I could be the woman that I am today. And I love her very much. Another question that I got, the struggles of becoming a mom while still growing up. And a big one for me was I didn't know how to self-regulate. And that was with every aspect of my life. That was with even before having kids. I didn't know how to calm myself, and I would get upset and I would just self-destruct. I would say terrible things to people. I was just so unkind to myself, and then I was unkind to everyone else. And so then when you add kids and lack of sleep on, and I can't calm myself down to be an adult, that was really hard to work through. And it makes me sad that I couldn't have been more present when my kids were so little. And I was a great mom back then. I know I was, and I loved my kids, but I do look back and go, I wish I could have been there more. I was there physically, but I wasn't there necessarily mentally, and I wasn't in a good place. And that unstable relationship with myself equaled unstable relationships with others. And my kids kind of got put through the ringer with that of back and forth with Drew. And then this leads to another question, but then back and forth with another person that I was with that I'll dive more into with the next question. And then even with Darren, I moved in with him very quickly, and my kids got so much whiplash from me jumping from thing to thing, looking for love when I just needed to find it in myself. And then that leads me to the next question, which is, what happened to that one guy you were once engaged to? This question has been asked so many times from so many different people. It's a part of my life that I don't like to go into. It was a really hard time in my life, and honestly, he just didn't treat me very well. And that's when you get into like the weeds of it. When he first came into my life, I thought it was like this knight in shining armor. It's like, this is what I've been looking for, you know. It was everything that I thought I wanted and needed and was so excited about. And then, you know, as things progressed, there were comments about, you know, me not knowing what I wanted to do with my life, and being called a gold digger by him and his family. And, you know, we just grew apart. He ended up moving to the other side of the country for school, and I gave him his ring back, and we were gonna try long distance. It was never gonna work. I was in a very unhealthy place as well, and you know, it always felt really bad because I did have such young kids. I was kind of the sole person at that time. My ex was dealing with his own things, and having a job was really hard because if one of them got sick or anything, it was up to me to miss work and to be with them. And so it was really hard to have a stable job. And you know, then you have this partner telling you, you know, you need to figure out what you want to do, you're a gold digger, all this stuff. And now I make more money than him. So it all works out in the end. But yeah, maybe I'll dive into it more in another episode with Shelby, but kind of want to leave it a little bit surface level. It just didn't work out, and it is what it is. The hardest challenge that you've had to overcome balancing being a mom and partner. And the biggest thing that I now realize that has taken some therapy to figure out is putting myself first. For so long, I think it was kind of ingrained into me, and because of the religion, that you serve others first. Like, that is what you do. You are a servant to everyone around you. And when I was going through therapy it was with my first therapist that I had as an adult, and I started seeing him in 2019, right before COVID. And he was like, what do you like to do? What hobbies do you have? Who are you? All these questions where I was like, I don't know. I like to sleep. Like, I'm surviving through the day, and then anytime that I can sleep and escape what I'm living, that's what I want to do. Those are my hobbies. I don't like doing anything else. I doom scroll on my phone, like no hobbies. Drinking, love to drink, love to hang out with, you know, I love to forget everything that's going on in my life. And so once I started putting myself first, I could be a better mom and a better partner and be there for everyone that needs me, you know, finding things that I enjoy doing. I found Pilates that I love. I love reading now. I try to journal. It doesn't work very well, but I just need to make sure that my cup is full. And then once my cup is full, I can make sure that everyone gets their time with me and their individual time with me too. I can tell when, you know, one of the kids is maybe acting out a little bit more, or Darren and I are bickering at each other. I'm feeling a certain way. I can now realize, okay, I need to spend some time with that. I need to do some intentional things with them. Or if I'm feeling angry at everyone and being on edge, okay, well, what have I done for me to make sure that I'm feeling good so that I can then give my best to everyone else? Then I have some fun questions that I'll just go into a little bit. And this one is, I hope I don't get any hate for it, but it's, do you think the moon landing was fake or real? And I think it was fake. And I don't know why, but I do. I haven't looked into it. I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but I just kind of am like, going all the way up to the moon and landing on it, no, it seems fake to me. Fake news. Next one is, what's your favorite book? And I have a couple. I love Audible books. I listen to Audible books a lot. I listen to podcasts a lot, but I would say one of my just favorite books is The Four Agreements. I love that book. I have it, a physical copy, and I have it on Audible as well. How to Do the Work is incredible. It's always on my nightstand. Sometimes I'll just kind of flip through it to things that I've highlighted and that speak to me. And then for just entertainment, there's a book called The Maid that I read on my cruise and loved it. And then I've listened to a couple Blake Crouch books that I've really enjoyed as well. So I'm always open to suggestions. I love being able to have something to do while I'm cleaning, or if I just need to decompress and get off my phone, it's good to have a book right by me. My favorite food to cook / bake, honestly, nothing. Which sounds terrible. I don't like cooking. I don't like baking. I hate the cleanup after. I think if I didn't have the kitchen be a disaster after making one meal, I would like it more. But I enjoy making homemade spaghetti. My parents have a sauce that is incredible. So I love the after effect of being able to eat it. But like loving being in the kitchen, cooking stuff up, honestly, I hate. And I don't know why, because as a kid on Sundays when I couldn't do anything else, I would bake cookies, I would bake all sorts of things, and I loved it. But maybe it's because I had no other option to do anything, and so now I just kind of hate it, which is a little sad. Maybe I'll enjoy it one day. My skincare routine. There was a time that I got this product that a lot of people that I know used and loved, and their skin looked incredible. So I wanted to try it, and I got it, and I tried it for probably 4 or 5 months, and it completely ruined my skin. I've always had kind of problem skin, you know, a couple pimples, things like that. I've never had like terrible skin. My face, horrible. It was so embarrassing. I hated it. I kept trying to get through like the purging stage, and I was like, I don't think that this is normal. Like my skin's terrible. So I ended up going to an acne specialist. Her name's Mallory Miles, and her products have completely changed my skin. She has an awesome Instagram website that has a ton of information. She has a pretty long wait list. Absolutely worth it. Even before I could get into her, I could buy her like basics. And even before I saw her, my skin had been drastically improved. And then she puts you on kind of a strict regimen. And then at that point, my skin hasn't looked this good in ages. So absolutely recommend her. It's all her stuff that I use. Last question is biggest red flags in a guy. And I'm gonna stop there and end on that, because I think Shelby and I are going to do an episode where we kind of go over dating and all of those things. So I will end there, but thank you everyone for sending in the questions. Thank you all for listening. Sorry, it's been a little touch and go with my back. It's been rough and traveling, and we're just, you know, we're busy and we're doing this for fun, and hopefully something comes out of it. But if not, we have to realize we need to put ourselves first, and we really, I feel like, are the type of people that when we feel called to do something, we'll do it. And if we're not feeling it, we don't want to force it. So we appreciate everyone's patience with us and trying to figure out how to record and how to do all these techie things that we've never done before. So thank you so much, everyone. And we will chat probably next Thursday. Thanks.